everyone. Is this thing on? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Sweet. Awesome. All right. I have a quick story for you. It was Christmas Day. About 5 p.m. I was sitting in a chapel about a 10-minute drive from my house in St. Louis, and I was sobbing, like ugly cry. And as I was crying, I thought, what the heck? I'm supposed to be celebrating a birth today, the birth of Jesus. So why does it feel like I am sitting in my death and my suffering right now? I looked up, and in front of me there were a few Christmas trees on the altar, beautiful, lush green. My eyes fell to the base of the tree, where pools of red cloth lay. I think we have some introductions to make. Not me yet, but actually you guys. So I want to take the papers that you have, so go ahead and take those out. Everyone get a piece of paper and a pen. I want you guys to introduce yourselves to Jesus. Your real selves. So I'm going to give you about a minute. I'll watch the time here. And I want you, on this paper, there's no right answer, but I want you to write little phrases, bullet points, sentences about yourself. They can be things that you are proud of, that you flaunt, that you're not afraid to show people. And they can also be things that you're ashamed of, that you're afraid to show people, that you're afraid to look at yourself. I encourage you to include both. Do not be afraid. I'll go ahead and begin that here. Okay, I know that wasn't a lot of time, but I promise you'll have some more time later. So keep that paper, you can fold it, do whatever you want. But keep it for later. So this paper that you guys have, this is what Jesus wants to see. Everything. Everything you wrote, everything you didn't write and were too afraid or didn't have time to write. He wants to see it all. I think oftentimes more than we realize, we are afraid of ourselves. I am afraid of my true self. The beauty of this is that Jesus isn't afraid of your true self. So now I'll introduce myself. My name is Lizzy Joslyn. I'm a senior at Mizzou. I'm studying strategic communication, so it's in the journalism school. And I will be a Focus missionary for the next few years. Focus stands for Fellowship of Catholic University Students. I'll be on a college campus, working with the Catholic campus ministry and students. So now that I've introduced myself, now that you guys have introduced yourselves, let's get into suffering. So what is suffering? I just want to say a few things before I get into the thick of it. First, suffering means so many different things to so many different people. We each struggle with different things. I'll tell you a little bit about my suffering, but that doesn't mean that I'm pretending to know yours. And no matter how seemingly insignificant, how little our suffering might be, it's all very valid to feel grief from these things. And none of these things, not a single one, is unimportant to Jesus. Also, if you ever need to talk about anything, I'm here. So this is a roadmap for the rest of my talk. Suffering is a really big topic because I feel like it finds its way into everything. In the faith, everything is connected. It's cool, but it's also really annoying when you're trying to write a talk and make it simple and easy to follow. So I'm going to go through this roadmap for the talk. I'll walk through it very clearly. These are also words and phrases you may or may not have heard before, maybe from the Bible, maybe from conversations, maybe from the Mass, maybe all three, maybe other places as well. And I think oftentimes we don't actually know what they mean. Like we say them and hear them at Mass, but we don't actually know. Not only do we not know the definitions, but we don't know what they look like in our lives, what they could look like in our lives. They're oftentimes, as I like to say, they're canned. Let's uncan them. So, my first point, how do we get from, I feel like a teacher, how do we get from suffering to poverty? Let's start with the theology of suffering. What is it? In essence, it's our separation from God. Any form of suffering or pain that you feel is a byproduct of your separation from God, because we were actually not meant to suffer. We were not meant to be away from Him ever. Something I think about this is it's why goodbyes are so painful. Like saying goodbye to your family before you leave for home, or a good friend you won't see for a while. It's because we were actually meant to be separated from them. We were all meant to be in unity together, in union with God. Why God doesn't cause suffering, a quick theology lesson. So you know how darkness isn't a thing? Science, I'm sure you guys have heard this in science classes, but dark is actually the absence of light. It's not a thing, it's just the absence of light. In the same way, evil isn't a thing. It's the absence of love, or rather, love himself. But the most, so therefore God cannot create evil. Gotta finish my point there. God cannot create evil because evil is not fitting. He cannot create suffering. And so, yes, the most important point from that little blurb about the theology of suffering is that God works through it. Not only does he work through it, he transforms it. Jacques Philippe, author of Interior Freedom and Time for God, should read this book. He's great. He says, love and only love can overcome evil by good and draw good out of evil. A lot of times, and I don't want to categorize anyone's suffering, I don't want to tell you what you go through, but I think a lot of times we go through two types of suffering, general types. One, we are asked to give something up. It is our choice. We are asked to give something up. Oftentimes, our yes will incur suffering. This can be difficult because we are given the power to say yes or no. And that can be so tough to look back on something and say, oh my gosh, it would be so much easier if I hadn't given my yes to that. The second type is when God takes something away from you. Also awful because you feel out of control. Neither one is any easier, just different. In a way, I want to briefly touch on why the second type that I talked about is actually merciful. Imagine that. It's actually merciful. When God takes something away from us, he lifts that burden of having to say yes or no, having to be aware of it and to say yes or no. And so therefore, by doing that, by removing that obstacle to get closer to us, it's merciful. What? Imagine that. It's severe, yes. There's a book, I just want to put this into story context because I'm talking up here right now. There's a book I read this summer called A Severe Mercy. It's about a man who is absolute best friends with his wife, the way he describes her. Beautiful. And the story is about the process of him living with her as she grows sicker and sicker. This man encounters Christianity through C.S. Lewis. Oh my gosh, could you imagine being converted by C.S. Lewis? And through this, he realizes he puts his wife above God. He idolizes her. And so God, in a severe mercy, is slowly taking her away so that this man can have a closer relationship with God. A severe mercy, he calls it. The common thread between these two is that this type of suffering, these types of suffering, all types of suffering, leave us completely raw, completely empty of ourselves, just a gaping wound, vulnerable. It's at these points in our lives, whether we have given something up or God has taken something away, that it is so infinitely important to be raw with Jesus and actually open your wound to him and be authentic with him in prayer. I'm going to read a bit from Interior Freedom. It says, "This is because God is realistic. His grace does not operate on our imaginings, ideals, or dreams. It works on the reality, the specific concrete elements of our lives. Even if the fabric of our everyday lives doesn't look very glorious to us, only there can we be touched by God's grace. The person God loves with the tenderness of a father, the person he wants to touch and to transform with his love, is not the person we have liked to be or ought to be. It's the person we are. God doesn't love ideal persons or virtual beings. He loves actual, real people. He is not interested in saintly figures and stained glass windows, but in us sinners, in our rawness. And so that is how we move from suffering to poverty, our rawness, our nothingness. We are left as nothing but a whole gaping wound. And so how do we move? How do we possibly move from this state? Think about a time where you felt so vulnerable. Think about a time after you suffered, during your suffering, after God took something away from you, after you gave something up, that you were just completely raw. Just close your eyes for a minute and hold that in your mind's eye. So painful. How, you can open your eyes, how do we move from that state to hope? Seems a little counterintuitive. We're at our lowest. But that's the point. We're at our lowest. So how can we possibly rejoice in the fact that we are nothing? In this nothingness, when we've hit our rock bottom. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 9 says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." My power is made perfect in weakness. It is in weakness, in poverty, in our nothingness, in our rawness, that Jesus can fill us to the greatest capacity. That is hope. wants to fill us. When we have nothing, we realize that he is everything. We can do nothing apart from him. John chapter 5, we love John 5, but verse 15, I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Do you ever think just about how little we are? Oh my gosh, guys. We're specks of dust. And he wants to fill us. I always think about I'm like very visual, and I like a good metaphor or a good analogy. I always think of like a basket, right? Like we bring this basket of things to God, and we say like, yes, here are all of the things. These might be things you're holding on to in life. Here are all of my things, Jesus. Here is everything. And he's like, dude, I can't put anything in there. It's all full. Our poverty, when we empty the basket, or when we let him empty it, he can fill it to the max. And that is hope. Because it's Jesus. He's perfect. He's love. He wants to fill us. This hope, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, because when you go to prayer in these moments of poverty, when you're suffering, do not rationalize. Do not rationalize your prayer. I did this for so long. It looks like this. I looked back at one of my journals the other day. It was like, Jesus, I'm really struggling because I'm not making friends out here in Denver, and I'm really lonely, blah, blah, blah. But it's okay, because you're God, and I know that everything will be okay. And he was like, yeah, but like, can you be real with me? You guys, there's a difference between like having real talk with Jesus and being completely open. Maybe storming into the rest chapel. Like, do this. Go into the rest chapel if you're mad and just like scream at him. I have. Do it if that's what you're feeling. It's just like a best friend. You're not going to get close to them. They're not going to get close to you if you don't like show them everything. The good, the bad, the ugly, the in between. There's a difference between this justifying and then believing in the resurrection. You can still come into the reservation chapel, scream, rant, do whatever, and still have hope. Still have this underlying sense of like, I'm feeling really angry right now, but I still have hope. I still have hope. I still believe that Jesus can resurrect me in the way that he wants to, which is perfect. Tonight I went to go see Bob Goff. I just wanted to throw this in here, but he was talking about how we need to be more authentic with each other. Instead of just having small talk all the time, how's your day? How are you? Like, I'm fine. No, you're not. Seriously. But yeah, just like, he was like, what if you just did that with one person a day for 3 minutes? And you find someone and you just like, real talk with them. You go get coffee, real talk. And I thought, oh my gosh, what if that one person was Jesus? So then, how do we move from hope to intimacy? What is intimacy? It's the complete closeness, complete union. This openness, it's like, gosh, if like, Jesus were on the other side of the podium, this thing is like something that I gotta give up. It's like, oh my gosh, like, and he clears that. I have room to be actually close to him in intimacy. That openness leads to the ability to literally be like closer to the heart of Christ. You guys, when we receive the Eucharist, he can literally feel every pain of suffering. He can feel everything that you feel because you are so close to him. He is in you, and he feels everything you feel. That is intimacy. And he wants to feel like he craves it. There's a part of Jesus' heart that we can't know if we do not unite our suffering to his on the cross. If we do not enter into our suffering. Jesus definitely suffered. We all know this. We always pray, I just want to know your heart. I read my journal entries from months ago and I was like, I just want to know your heart. And I had no idea what I was praying for because I was praying for suffering. I just want to know every corner of your heart. Jesus made his sacred heart so that I could love the most, but in the same way, hurt the most. It is that closeness, that intimacy with Jesus, that relationship with him that isn't just him like standing next to us, but actually wanting to be united with us. Is that not our ultimate goal? Isn't that what we've always longed for? For someone to see us and know us and still desperately, desperately thirst for us. As I sat there on Christmas, sobbing in that chapel, I realized there is no resurrection without death. Death to self. From the pool of red at the base of the trees sprouted these beautiful, lush, green branches. Guys, from those red pools of cloth in our lives, Jesus wants to bring beauty and newness and growth. He wants to transform your suffering into new life. Guys, we gotta dive into our suffering. We can't be afraid of it. We're constantly avoiding diving into it. We are avoiding our capacity to receive Jesus. He is not afraid of who you really are. He's not afraid of your suffering. Let him see you. In the next few minutes, as Jesus gazes upon us right here, just let him look at you. Let him see everything on your paper. Let him see everything that you don't have the human capacity to write down on your paper. Show this to him. He would love to see you for exactly who you are right now. He would love to see exactly what you're experiencing.